So first, test, don't guess, test everything. So like I just said, if you go to your conventional medicine doctor, you're going to get TSH and free T4, but that does not tell us what your thyroid is doing in its entirety. It does not tell us the health of your thyroid. So the test to get free T3, that T3 is the active thyroid hormone. That's what gets into your cell. Your cells only have receptor sites on them for T3, not T4. So here we are testing T4 all day long, but we don't know how much of the active thyroid hormone do you have in your body? How much T3 do you have unbound, ready to go into the cell to do its job, to run your metabolism, to burn your fat, to give you energy, to grow your hair? So that's one piece of the testing puzzle. The next piece is reverse T3. And many, many doctors will tell you, and I guarantee many of your listeners have heard this already, I don't test reverse T3. We just look at that in the ICU or the ER. Well, of course, it's a body protective mechanism. So if you are hurt or injured or in a traumatic accident, your reverse T3 is going to be elevated because it's your body saying, hey, listen, you don't need to burn fat right now. You don't need thyroid hormone getting into the cell. You need to survive. We need all those body processes that aren't needed right now to stop. You don't need to burn fat. You don't need to grow your hair. You don't even need to have energy. You need to lay there in the ICU and live. And your body's really smart. So it will raise it. Of course, we know it's going to be high in the ICU or the ER or during an inflammatory state or a disease state. But what if you're just walking around, living life, you know, and dealing with all these symptoms? We have to check reverse T3 because if that's elevated in day-to-day life, then that's a problem. That will literally stand outside of the cell and it will block T3 from getting into the cell. I always use the analogy of a bouncer at the club. That reverse T3 is standing outside, arms crossed, telling the T3, you're not getting in. You're not getting in. And then someone continues to suffer because no one is testing the reverse T3 to see, is something blocking that T3's action on the cell? And that's why they feel like garbage. And then beyond that, we have the antibodies. So we talked about Hashimoto's, autoimmune. We have to check the autoimmune antibodies. So that's TPO, thyroid peroxidase, and TG antibody, thyroglobulin antibody. So you have to get both of them tested. I've seen doctors test one and not the other. There are two. You need both of them tested because we need to see whether or not it is indeed Hashimoto's. Now, those antibodies can come back as a false negative sometimes. So I recommend getting them tested over and over again. And this is really where working with a thyroid professional can help you because they're also going to look at your family history and be able to piece that together. I just had a patient last week. Her mother, aunt, and sister all have hypothyroidism. And we know with Hashimoto's, it's very genetic. So none of them were ever tested for it. They didn't know whether or not they had Hashi. She wasn't tested for it. She didn't know whether she had Hashi. And I said, the fact that it's so genetically passed down in your family tells me that it's Hashimoto's. Because if it's just hypothyroidism where really your thyroid gland just kind of stops working on its own and there's no presence of autoimmune, that's only 5%. And that usually occurs with certain medications, radiation, extreme dieting. I mean, what are the chances that her mother, her aunt, her grandma, or sister, and her all had, extreme dieting and we're all on a medication to destroy their thyroid? It doesn't happen. So that's Hashimoto's. I like the Dutch test. I base it on a person's budget as well. So we can start with the serum hormones and just test those. And we really kind of like to see like where is that woman in her lifespan? Is she regularly cycling? Is she perimenopausal where she's getting erratic cycles, or is she postmenopausal? And we can kind of base it on that. So we can certainly start with serum. We can use a ZRT saliva that gives us a decent indication. And then the Mac Daddy test is the Dutch test.